question. Now, thanks to Direct Line Landlord Insurance, today we are discussing the importance of having the right legal documents in place when renting out a property. And I'm joined by Nick Breton from Direct Line for Business to talk about this. Hi, Nick.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming in. So what type of legal documents do landlords need to think about when they're renting out their property?
There are a lot, Clive, mostly relating, well, the most important one is the tenancy agreement, of course, which sets out the agreement between the landlord and the tenant. Also notice to tenant about the deposit protection scheme, which the deposit is going to be protected by. And when things turn a little bit nasty, letters to the tenant in the correct sort of template for rent arrears, demands for rent, and ultimately repossession and eviction when necessary. Landlords also have a lot of health and safety regulations that they need to demonstrate that they're adhering to. The list goes on, but the most important really is the tenancy agreement. Yeah,
that's the big one, isn't it? Mm-hmm. There must be a temptation to just adapt your agreement from one tenancy to the next tenancy. Is that okay?
Well, it happens. It's not really advisable. Our research shows that amongst landlords who don't use a letting agent, that more than half are kind of recycling the same tenancy agreement after some years, which they have adapted themselves, which may not be legally watertight unless it's been checked recently by a legally qualified person. I would say it's not terribly surprising that it happens because the majority of landlords are private individuals. Most of them have just one or two properties, and agreement may go 2 or 3 years between uses, in which time legal requirements may well have changed. New rules have come in about tenants' right to rent, new health and safety regulations, the government's how to rent checklist for tenants, new requirements regarding repossession notices. So it is really important that landlords do make sure that they've got a watertight agreement which has been checked recently for currency and appropriateness.
I mean, that certainly all makes sense. What are the things that might go wrong if you haven't got the right paperwork in place?
I would say an awful lot of things could go wrong. There are over 100 rules and regulations governing letting private property in the UK. And research that we've carried out shows that 1 in 6 landlords have experienced contract disputes with tenants in the last 2 years. If an agreement isn't watertight or if it's ambiguous, then it is hard to resolve disagreements when they arise between the landlord and tenant. Makes it difficult also to regain possession of the property for landlords. Non-compliance by landlords regarding the deposit protection scheme, for instance, gave rise to quite a surge in complaints against them. And many eviction notices do contain errors, and this puts the entire possession claim at risk. And far from actually regaining lawful possession of their property, the landlord may actually be kind of countersued or have a counterclaim against them by tenants for harassment or unlawful eviction. So it's really important.
So, I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer. What is to stop every landlord making sure they've got all the proper legal documents in place?
Well, despite the risks of not having proper legal documentation in place, our research shows that still about 1 in 10 lettings aren't covered by a written contract. And this may be because landlords aren't fully aware of all the changes which are coming across their bows, and think that an agreement that was checked or produced 2 or 3 years ago is still good. Also, for a private landlord on a tight budget, perhaps solicitors' fees could be a little expensive, typically charging £250 for a tenancy agreement. So there isn't a huge amount, other than perhaps some inertia and the fear of escalating legal fees.
So where do landlords go then to make sure they have got these documents in place?
Well, they can go, of course, to solicitors' firms, many of whom, of course, will provide standard templates. Alternatively, at Direct Line for Business, we do provide a no-cost legal document service to new and renewing landlord insurance customers, also to other small business insurance customers as well, all at no extra cost. So, for instance, it's very easy for landlords to log on if they are insurance customers of Direct Line for Business. and get model tenancy agreements and get the right template for rent arrears and deposit protection scheme letters and notices, which they can tailor and complete to which matches their situation. And that in turn can then be legally and personally reviewed, again at no extra cost, to make sure that it's exactly as required. And as I say, this is a service which is available at no extra cost to new and renewing landlord insurance customers. And listeners can visit lbc.co.uk, click on the Property Hour banner, and they'll see there a short video which explains just how easy it is to access this service.
Well, thanks very much indeed, Nick, and thanks to Direct Line Landlord Insurance. And for more information and for the chance to win a tech bundle, go to LBC.